Hello everybody, this is Preeti from Aussizz Group, and today again I'm live to give the information about the WA State Nomination Program, which we'll be talking in about that the recent invitations that has been received and the analysis that we have done based on this one, and how to increase your probability for getting an invitation, what you should be lodging in your EOIs, how you should be doing it so that you increase your chances for getting an invitation from the WA state nomination. Okay. First of all, the first and the foremost thing, the most important thing about lodging an expression of interest is, which is a mandatory and which you cannot lodge an expression of interest without, is the skills assessment. You need to have the skills assessment in an occupation which is available in the WA state nomination list. If you does have a skills assessment but your occupation is not in the WA list, which is called as WASOL, WASOL list, then unfortunately you will not be invited. The state government has recently introduced the new list. The first list was introduced in November 2018, and after that they have changed the criteria and have introduced a new list which was released in December 2019. So probably for 13 months we had the old list, and now we have got the new list. Since the new list has been introduced, there have been 2 rounds of an invitation. The first round was basically the very basic ones where we were not able to do most of the analysis that on what grounds is the state government inviting the applicants. From the first invitation round, we did a bit of an analysis and we lodged the expression of interests accordingly, looking into the factors for what state government is looking into before giving you an invitation. And we are very proud of ourselves for receiving about 80-85 invitations in this round based on what department was looking into, the state government. Now these invitations that we received, that's basically for 2 visa subclasses, subclass 190 and the subclass 491. I'll briefly explain you what's the difference between these 2 subclasses and what are the requirements which the state government is looking into once you are invited, and also before you are invited, what you should do in your expression of interest to increase your chances for an invitation. The reason why I'm saying this is because these invitations are on the basis of criteria. It is definitely just not on the basis of high points. Let's say, for example, I have got 95 points and my friend has got 65 points, and I would think that I would be invited first as compared to my friend who is sitting at 65 points. This is basically a myth, and this is not correct when it comes to the state nomination. Because if I'm not meeting the criteria or my expression of interest is not lodged as per what department or state government is looking into, I will not get invited. So don't run after the points. As long as you have got your points, you will be definitely, at least you will be invited for the 491. Yes, when it comes to be invited between 190 and a 491, then the points are working, then the points does to be considered, but not for that at least receiving an invitation for these purposes. Now, these visas are divided into, these invitations basically are divided into 2 norms. One is that you should have done either the bachelor's or the master's degree in Western Australia for 2 years, at least for 2 years. So in this one, what department is looking into, the state government department is looking into, is that you have done the full time of a study. Recently we have received so many queries for the people who have taken the reduced study load while they were studying their bachelor's and master's degree. This would impact your state nomination outcome, and this could be declined also if you have done a reduced study and does not have the prawns and the norms for those ones which are approved by the college or the university. So in case you have done that one, please come and see us. We will look into those ones, and there would be an additional requirements that you have to meet, which is the approval of the study load from the university, and you need to provide that one once you are providing all the documents to the state government. Because one of the major requirement for the state government is that you must have studied as a full-time student. If you study a reduced load, then this is not considered a full-time, and for those ones, additional documents to satisfy the state nomination needs to be provided. In addition to the 2 years of a full-time study, the another requirement is that you either have 6 months of a full-time contract or a 6 months of a experience in your nominated occupation. Now, I know people says that why the contract? If I already have got a 6 months of a work, why do I need to do a contract, or vice versa and provided? The major difference between both of these are the contract needs to be a full-time for the next 6 months. However, the work experience which the government or the state nomination department is accepting is 20 hours per week, which is based on the casual also. So if you have got a contract which is a casual contract, you have to wait for the next 6 months to prove that you have worked on those ones. Otherwise, if you have got a full-time contract, that's fine. Casual contract less than 35 hours per week is not accepted. In case you have got a job offer, but it is not a full-time, it's a casual, then we advise that you work for those 6 months and then get invitation and meet the requirement. So this is the reason, because in the previous criteria, it was just a full-time contract for the 12 months. There was no requirement or either as a requirement of an experience. Those feedbacks were provided to the state government when they were making those changes and looking, and they have looked into, because people who have worked in Western Australia or in Australia, but they were not considered just because their contract was not full-time, they were left behind. So hence they have put this criteria also, which is good, and you should be considering those ones. People sometimes have worked on their ABNs and have got irregular number of hours per week. So for those ones, the 6 months work experience is counted. Now, we highly recommend that when you go for your skills assessment, you get your employment also assessed, because these 6 months of an experience needs to be lodged into your expression of interest, which means the further documentation required to be submitted to the Department of Home Affairs. When it comes to the Department of Home Affairs, there is more thorough check for the documentation of an employment, which we highly recommend should be fully completed, and you must have all the required documents to prove your Australian employment. And those could be your pay slips, your reference letters with the dates and the employment in it, your superannuation, your bank statement, your PAYG, your group certificates, or on your income tax returns. So you need to be really careful when you are providing your 6 months of a work experience, either for a 190 or a 491 visa, because these information needs to be logged into your expression of interest. And whatever information is logged into your expression of interest, documentation has to be provided to the state government as well as Department of Home Affairs for demonstrating those points. Okay. However, in saying that, if you are providing 6 months of a contract, this is not logged into your expression of interest, so that contract is not further provided to the Department of Home Affairs. Although that's been thoroughly checked by the state government, and based on that contract, they either approve or decline your application for the state nomination. So you really need to look into all the aspects of what is the requirement of a contract when you are providing your documentation to them. This is a full-time contract with no less than 35 hours per week. The salary which is being offered must be a market salary rate. Now, what a market salary rate is, That is, either you look into the remuneration surveys for your occupation, which could be, for example, it's an engineer or IT, and also all these recruitment companies have got those remuneration surveys. Based on this one, you should be offered a position of that remuneration. The reason why the state government has put this requirement is they do not want the employee to be that exploited for this reason, that you're just being offered a position for a $35,000 or $40,000, which is a way less than what is being offered to the same position to someone who is not in a need of this letter of offer, would get more salary offered. So to avoid that thing, they have made it as per the market salary rate. You must be offered a position at that salary. In addition to the salary, they would also need that this has to be a full-time contract for a fixed term or a permanent position. Now, in both of these positions, people are really confused between the contract of the next 12 months, which is not a full-time. What's the difference between these two? So the annual leave and your paid sick leaves and everything, these kind of public holidays, these things should be paid into your contract. So that should be mentioned in those ones. The employment contract need to be signed by you and your employer, and should demonstrate the name and the designation who is offering you the employment is really important in this aspect. So basically, these are the few things which I really want you to be considered once you have accepted your invitation and you are further providing the documentation to the state government. In addition to this one, you also need to be very sure about the test that is being to be done. So once you are invited, there is a test for the WS state that you need to pass through. There's other 4 sections for these ones, and you need to pass that test also. You should be fine. You guys must be living in WS, so I don't think so that should be a very big problem for any of you guys. Now, once you have submitted these documents to the department, then they take about 28 days to review, and they get back to you with the decision. And hopefully we all get the approval of the state nominations. Once the state nomination is approved, you have got next 60 days to lodge the visa application. So lots of people, they get confused between that. Once we have lodged and we have been invited, then they do get the bridging visa based on this one. No, that's again a myth. The invitation from the state government and the acceptance of the invitation does not give you any bridging visas. The bridging visas are only issued once you have accepted the invitation from the Department of Home Affairs, which you eventually get once the state government has approved your invitation. So I would repeat the process. The process would be, you lodge an expression of interest, you are invited by the state government, you accept that state invitation, you provide them the documentation, the state government processes that application, approves your state application, then further they inform the Department of Home Affairs that and then you receive an invitation from Department of Home Affairs. This is where you have got 60 days to lodge your visa, and then once you lodge your visa application, that's when you get a bridging visa. So and this whole process can take up to 3 months, or maybe more, depending upon when you get an invitation. So if your visa is expiring within a month and you are hopeful that you thought that you have received an invitation and then that's all good, no, there's still a process behind it. So make sure you have got a couple of months left on your current visa for the time to be processing for your state nomination application. Now, we receive lots of queries from the clients that they have been invited for the 491, but my friend has been invited for the 190 visa. We stand at the same points. Why is it this, that, and all? Now, we need to be very clear that invitations is on the basis of merits and what's mentioned in your EOI. The department is prioritizing the 190s of the same occupation as compared to the 491 if and when there are certain things which are mentioned in your expression of interest. So you need to make sure that you increase your chances for the 190 by launching your expression of interest. Expression of interest is basically same like as your resume. I have done my masters, my another friend has done masters, he's being called for an interview and not me. It's basically how the resume is done. So is exactly your expression of interest. The sequence of the occupation, the sequence of what's your studies that you have done, the sequence of your employment really makes a lot of difference in getting an invitation. So you need to provide it according to the highest qualifications obtained in the top and then go down further as below. So what I mean to say is, let's say that you have done your master's back home, but here you have done your diploma or an advanced diploma. So you initially fill your Australian qualification followed by your master's degree of back home. We would rather ask you to do it other way around and increase your chances so that for the same EOI you get invited for the 190 rather than the 490 ones. So this is one example, and there are lots of different criteria where you could increase your chances for receiving a 190 invitation. So make sure you do it accordingly, and always the professional advisors are always welcome. So please come and see us if you haven't lodged your expression of interest. We would love to help you in getting your permanent residency pathways for this. Now, I would come back to the points for which the minimum points for any of the occupation that was invited for a 491 or a 190 visa. Firstly, I'll start with the engineers. The engineers for the 190 visas has been invited minimum for 70 points. Let me check if we have got any engineer less than 70. No. We have received the minimum points for the 190 visa for any engineering occupation is 70. So if you have received the visa invitation for an engineer, you have got 70 or more but invited for a 491, then you really need to look into your expression of interest. This means you have got the chances of being invited for 190. However, because of some reason, based on how you have lodged your EOI, you have been invited for the 491 visa. Because the requirement for the acceptance or the approval of 190 or a 491 visa is exactly the same. You need to have either the 6 months contract or the 6 months of an experience. So if in the same invitation you can be invited for the 190, which is directly the permanent residency, before having a provisional permanent residency, that's the best shot for all of you. All right. Now after that, I'll come up to the another occupation, which is the IT. Any of those IT ones are again invited minimum at 70 points. So state government has not invited any 190 visa at minimum 65 points in the last round. So try to increase your points. If you're sitting at 65 and you have been invited for 491, just see that you can get at least 70 points for the 190 invitation. Now, based on this one, we have again got the draft persons for like a civil or a electrical engineering drafts persons. They were invited at very high points, which were 90. So these electronics and mechanical engineers or those engineering and IT degree holders, they all have done the master's or the bachelor's degree. Based on this one, they have been invited. However, these draftspersons occupation or chef or a restaurant manager, the trade occupations, they have been invited at high points, which is minimum 85 points. No, sorry. Yes, which is minimum at the 85 points, and then we have got one chef only which is invited at 80 points but has got a lot of more than 3 years of an experience. Otherwise, all trade occupations have been invited for 85 and above. These trade occupations are who have done 2 years of a diploma or an advanced diploma from Western Australia. Now, if you are mentioning your qualification in the expression of interest, but you do not have all the required documents like your completion letter, your transcript and your certificate of your diploma, advanced diploma, certificate 3, 4, whatever you have done as an Australian qualification, then further it could decline your application further, because it is important for the state government to look into those documents, because based on those ones, what you have mentioned in your EOI, they have invited you. So make sure you provide all 3 documents: your transcript, your certificate, and the completion letter issued by the college. And you have to have the student visa or any visa for those ones on which you were allowed for the study. For example, you were holding a student dependent visa and you have shown that you have done 6 months of any study, but you were not eligible even for that study, because as a holder student dependent you can only study for 3 months. You will be further declined for this one. So eligible visa for this one, where you could study, approved by the government, and the completion letter with the transcripts and a certificate, all this is mandatory and must. Missing one document could overturn your decision. And so this was about the 190 visas, which we have received only one invitation at 80 points and rest everything at 85 points if you have done the trade qualification from Western Australia, and 70 points if you have done bachelor's or master's degree. You need to provide the 6 months experience or a contract, which is exactly the same as for a 491 visa. Okay. Now talking about the 491 invitations, we have received quite a lot for these 491 invitations, which is at the minimum points is again the 70 points are the minimum, or 70. Yeah, we have received very few at 70 points, and most of them have been invited at 75 points. Okay, so there's only been one invitation for a trade occupation which was invited at 70 points. Majority has been on the basis of 75 or more than 75 points and all. Now, with these 70 points which I'm talking about, this includes your 15 points from the state nomination, which means that you have got 60 points, 55 points of your own and 15 points from the state government, and which makes 70. Okay, we only had one invitation at 70 points, and the reason for this one is this was just the second round, and eventually in a couple of more rounds we would be looking forward for at least 65 points also. Also, please bear in mind that the person who has received at these minimum points have got a lot of experience in this occupation and have done the master's degree back home, which again is a factor which the state government looks into, that what is your highest qualification, irrespective of the fact that where you have done that qualification. So if you have done a highest qualification which is more than your Australian study or higher than your Australian study, must be mentioned in your EOI. Even if it does not increases your points, it just increases your criteria for getting an invitation even at the lower points. So and then we do receive lots of queries about I have done my MBA, I am making 100 points for this one, will I be invited? So see, skills assessment is very, very mandatory. So few assessment bodies does need an experience, others they do not. So depending upon your skills assessment, whether you need an experience or not is important. It is not the state government requirement for you to have an experience. They said if you don't have an experience, you can provide us a letter of offer and this could maintain the criteria, but skills assessment is important. We do receive a couple of clients where they have come and like a restaurant manager, but and they got their skills assessment negative because they did by themselves and they could not meet the criteria for those ones or not done properly or what, and then going back to the same assessment body is always hard. So make sure that if you are eligible for any trade qualification which is on the WASOL list, which is the WA list, then you must look into that of getting your assessment done. That's one of the most and the major and the most important aspect. Skills assessment, if you have received positive, you have won the half of the work, right? So 50% of your work is done and then it's just the rest of the 50%. So do not mess up with your skills assessment requirements or the way you work or the study you have finished or how you represent your skills assessment application is again very important aspect when you lodge your application with them. So surprisingly, we have also received the invitations for accountants and other occupations who have done the bachelor's degree also. Until November, the requirement for the bachelor's degree was that you must have 1 year of an experience. However, now we have received the invitations under the new criteria that you do not need to have any experience in your if you have done a bachelor's degree. Accountants has been invited, IT degree people has been invited without the experience, but again at a high points, which are somewhere around 85 to 90 points. And if you have done your bachelor's degree, you do not have an experience, you need to hold on. And if you have got a bit of a lesser points, then you should get invitation in couple of rounds more. The state government has not said anything that they would be changing anything or the new criteria or the new rules that would be coming up, and lately new this one. So we hope that it would remain the same. Now something about the nurses. So we have received lots of calls from different occupations, and especially from the nurses, since the nurses have been removed from the WA state nomination list. Now this is, in a way it's correct, in a way it's not. Okay, the reason why we say it's a correct and it's not is because it has been removed from the WA graduate stream list, but it is not removed from the WA general stream list. So there are two lists. One is the graduate, which is the longer list and has got most of the occupations, and then there is a general which has got few occupations, which is more related towards the medical, and the nurses are into those ones. So there are a couple of nurses occupation onto those ones with the specialization in it, and they have been invited they have got an additional criteria which is for the WA regional only. Now, what this additional criteria is that you need to provide a letter of offer once you are invited, either for a 190 or 491. It is open in both the lists, but once you are invited, you have to provide your the next contract. Instead of 6 months, you have to provide the contract for 12 months, and the contract has to be from a regional area except Perth and Mandurah. Okay, so what's the difference between the graduate and this stream is that in this stream, if your occupation is ticked for WA regional only, that means you have to provide a contract for the next 12 months once you are invited, and the contract has to be from outside the Perth and Mandurah regions. So it has to be beyond, like Bunbury, Albany, Karatha, they all are outside the Perth regional areas. Okay. However, once you have been invited, your visa has been lodged, your visa has been granted, then there's no obligation or there's no mandatory requirement that you have to live in the regional area also outside Perth. There's no obligation. You can still stay in Perth. For a 491 visa, Perth is still regional. Okay, so do not get confused by yourself that if you get a state invitation where you have to give an offer letter outside the regional area, then after the grant also you have to live and work in a regional area for 3 years, which is outside Perth. That's not true, because the state requirement and the visa conditions are completely different. State wants you to have the job opportunities outside the Perth area. However, the visa requirements is that you have to live in a regional area for the next 3 years, and for that purpose, Perth is still regional. I hope I'm not too confusing. If you still think that you need more information regarding on this one, please book an appointment, come and see us, and I'm more than happy to provide you additional information, especially for the nurses, that how can they increase their criteria or eligibility to receive the WA state nomination invitation. So there has been 2 rounds gone yet, but we haven't received any invitations or any of them for a general stream. So we are hoping from the next round onwards, where they have been made it more basic and clear the criteria, we are hoping to receive more invitations next round for the general stream also. If you have got an occupation which is from the general stream but have not lodged because you were thinking that WA is not in your state requirement, please lodge your expression of interest, because you will not get invited until you have lodged your expression of interest for these visas. Now, this was all about the WA state nomination, and please feel free to write any queries that you have in the inbox, and we are more than happy to reply for those ones. And then again, if you are looking us live, then I'm happy to answer your queries. Do we have any, Anna?
I've got many questions here.
All right.
First one is from Shubha Silva. I'm at 85 points. MIT from Charles Stewart, Sydney. Skills assessed for ICT security specialist and network administrator. Currently residing at Brisbane. What are the chances?
Thank you for your query. And this live session is about the WA state nomination. So I would be just telling you about the WA state nomination. Since you have not studied in WA, where did he study from? Sorry?
Charles Stewart, Sydney.
In Sydney, yeah. So since you have studied in Sydney, you do not meet the criteria for the WA state nomination because you have studied interstate. You need to look into the NSW state nomination. For a 190 visa for NSW, you must be living in NSW. Now from NSW, where you have studied, you have moved to the Brisbane. So again, you are not eligible for the NSW also. Now in Brisbane, for the Queensland, that's currently been closed, and they keep updating very, very frequently. So you need to look into those ones also. So unfortunately, you are not eligible for the WA state nomination, because the session is about that one where I'm talking about. Yeah. What's the next question?
Next question is from Harish Muthusamy. How possible is it to get PR after Master in Nursing to get 189?
Okay. Harish, the 189 for the nursing is the minimum points that we have received is for 85 points. So you need to have the 85 points on your EOI to receive the nursing ones. If you have got any relatives who are living in a designated area, then also we have received lots of 491 visas also. So we just highly encourage all the people who have got the eligibility for the 491 for relative sponsored, they should also be lodging their expression of interest. Since you haven't told me how many points are you sitting and when did you lodge your AOI and all, I wouldn't be able to tell you the estimated time of your invitation. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is from John. Is New South Wales inviting interstate candidates?
No, John, unfortunately, if you are living in New South Wales, then only you are being invited, because from January onwards they have considered the new ones, the new criteria, and then they are not inviting the interstate.
Okay. I'm not sure what this question means from Nida. She's saying 6 months experience in North Australia or in any state. Maybe there's a different part for this question. Sorry, WA.
6 months experience in WA. All right, the 6 months experience can be does not need to be the WA. Needs to be an Australian experience. So this is this is a good question. And if you have studied in WA but you have worked in some other state for 6 months, and is considered as an Australian experience, and WA is accepting that one.
Another one is from Gina. What is the possibility of 491 visa for marketing specialist?
Marketing specialist is not in a list for the WA state nomination. It has just came out 2 months ago. So from WA 491, 190 could not be done. From the other states, interstate candidates again are not invited. So you need to move to another state and meet their requirement.
Okay. Next question is from Sophine Dahal. Can you tell about getting PR through agriculture?
agriculture engineer, agriculture scientist.
Not
Sorry.
specified.
Yeah, so this is totally different. I won't be able to tell those things. But you need a skills assessment. Both of these ones are in a 189 and 190. So you have to meet the criteria accordingly.
Another one is from Mudassar. Should I do JRP cookery in Victoria or New South Wales? It's very random.
All right, I don't know where you have studied, so I don't know, but for Victoria, there's no requirement for a 491 visa that you must have studied or worked over there. So even if you are in WA and you have got a job offer letter from Victoria, you are eligible. So if you do your job ready program from New South Wales, then it keeps you the option open for both the state. As of today, you will be eligible for New South Wales as well as from Victoria also. So there goes an answer for you.
Next one is from Ajay Kumar. I'm doing automotive diploma in mechanical. I'm interested in 491 visa. Please guide me.
Again, the automotive, it has not been introduced in the current WA list. So the 491 is not eligible for you if you have started in WA or living and working in WA. If you are interstate, then the other states have got a 6 months of an experience or a study requirement. So right now, currently, for a 491, you are not in a WA list. You need to wait for WA list to be changed and this in occupation to be added into this one.
MS Sudarshan is asking a very vague question. Any chances of getting 189 invite? But he doesn't mention.
I don't know what occupation, what says. 189 prorata applications, 85 points, non-prorata, 85 points, non-prorata, 85, 90. Are you an IT, are you an engineer, are you a nurse? And so can't say much.
Okay. Another one is from Shahrukh Ali Khan. How long is it taking for quantity surveyors to get a skill select invitation on 75 points for 190 subclass in WA?
190 subclass, as I said, that we have received the invitations at minimum points were 75. So when have you lodged your expression of interest? Is it written? What date?
No.
Should has been invited because we have received a lot of invitations up to the 75 points. So come and check your EOI if it is according to what department is looking into, and I would be able to help you out with that. You should have been invited in the previous round.
Everyone is writing very vague question. Nasir Nash is asking, what about Baker?
Yes, baker is in a WA list. You need to have a skills assessment for a baker. Must have studied 2 years of any study in Western Australia. Can be English, can be bakery, can be diploma, advanced diploma. And then you would be eligible. So skills assessment is the most important aspect. Have you received your skills assessment?
Okay. Paulveen Paulos is 190 for mechanical engineering, still on WA. I am on 65 points. Studied in WA.
Yes, mechanical engineer is still on the WA list. We have received in the last round at 70 points for 190. If you have got 65 points, the chances are you could be invited. You should have been invited for the 491 in this round. Check your EOI. It should be done accordingly so that you should have received an invitation by now.
She said she also has a closely related job full-time as a mechanical engineer.
Must lodge your EOI accordingly so that at least you get an invitation for 491, if not for 190 yet.
Okay. Another one is from Ash. Hi, I want to know more about 491 visa with relative sponsorship for Victoria.
Okay, what occupation? It is really important because if it's a non-prorata application, it's a prorata, then depending upon what occupation it is. If it's an accountant, we haven't heard any 491.
She mentioned for electrical engineer.
For electrical engineer, how many points?
No, hasn't mentioned.
So, okay, electrical engineer, Victoria. So Victoria is not a designated area. Your relative must be living in the regional area of the Victoria to give you the 15 points for that.
Next question is Sawan Golin. Can you please explain a bit about non-pro rata occupation and their invitation process?
Okay. Non-pro rata are the ones which are not invited at the high points. They are invited as per the maximum points on your expression of interest. We have received between 80 and 85 for the non-pro rata occupations, the recent invitation round, and that has been in January round. They have been invited until 18th of September. So if you have got 85 points in your UI until 18th of September and you are a non-pro rata, you should have been invited.
Another question, Sonam Penjor. How likely a finance manager to get WA's nomination with 70 and 80 points for 190 and 491 respectively?
For finance manager?
Yeah.
Yep. So if you have got your skills assessment for those ones, have a look if you could increase your skills assessment into the taxation or the management and other ones also, because there would be just few additional subjects here and there, and you will be able to get your skills assessment based on those ones. So the accounting ones we have received the invitations at minimum 80 points for a 491, which is relevant to this one. So hang on there, and you should receive for the finance manager also. You would need either 6 months of an experience or a job offer letter into your nominated occupation, which is the finance manager, to accept the invitation.
Kazulama is asking, no experience at accounting, but has 70 points including 15 points by WA state nomination. Did my Bachelor of Accounting from Curtin University in WA. What are the chances, and am I able to launch my EOI?
Yes, you are eligible to lodge your expression of interest, and you must lodge it now. And there could be the chances with a bit of a wait you could be invited, and also so few people have only done the expression of interest and the skills assessment only in one occupation, which is the accountant general. We highly recommend to lodge more skills assessments like an accountant general or a taxation. That increases your chances, because if the queue has been finished for accountant general, you could be invited with the taxation or the management or vice versa. So go onto the multiple EOIs, must lodge at least 9 EOIs for each 3 occupations, 2 EOIs for this one. This will increase your chances to receive the invitation up to here. Yeah.
Another one, Neha Rishi Jankur, completed advanced diploma in WA, diploma and certificate 3 in community services. Any chance of getting invitation?
Okay, you need to have your skills assessment, and it's advanced diploma is into the community worker, and if this is an accredited degree by ACWA, you could get your skills assessment done without any experience, and then based upon your points, if you have got minimum points of 65 or 70, you should be able to get your invitation definitely. So the most important aspect for you is your skills assessment. I know the community worker ones, they can't get the graduate visas because your occupation is not on the federal list, but your occupation is on the state list. So while studying only, get your skills assessment done, lodge your expression of interest, and once you are granted the visa, then only you can stop studying.
Next question is from Basit. Hi, what are the chances to get invitation if someone on 65 points for chef in WA?
Chef hasn't been invited for a 491 also, even at 65 points, but we are expecting it in the next couple of rounds for the chef to be invited at 65, because it has just been the one round yet where they have come down to 70. So hoping next, or maybe the round after the next. The rounds for an invitation are always the third Thursday of the month, so probably I think it's the 20th or 21st of February when it would be the next round. Lodge your expression of interest within January only if you wanted to get invited in February.
Another one is from Eric Ketter. Please clarify on the 491 regional area's employment offer.
Perth is a regional area for 491 visa. So if you have to provide the employment letter, it can be from Perth, does not have to go beyond Perth only. If you have got from the beyond the Perth, that is also accepted, but you don't have to mandatorily get it from outside the Perth area.
Miriam Joy is asking, what are the chances for an internationally registered nurse who studied 1 year Bachelor's of Nursing in Southwest WA? Will additional study essential?
Southwest WA. Okay. 1 year of a study does not meet the requirement for this one. You need to have 2 years of a study for this one. However, in a general stream, if you have got a skills assessment in a specialization, or if you haven't gotten it, we can tell you how to get the skills assessment into the specialization. So you need to do a bit of a work to increase your chances and to get into the eligibility. So I would say come and see us because it is very specific to you. So I would not be taking just here itself this question.
Next one is from Viju. Hello, I am graduated from Victoria and have skill engineering technologist with me. What are the chances for me?
WA is not inviting anyone who is graduated from an interstate. You must have studied at least 2 years from WA for receiving an invitation. You must look into the Victoria State nomination, for which you need a job offer letter from a regional area of Victoria in your nominated occupation.
Next one is from Manu Matthew. Is there any pro rata for 491 for mechanical engineers?
No, there's no pro rata. Pro rata or non pro rata only applies for the 189 applications, not for 491. If you're talking about the 491 relative sponsored, then yes, but not for this type.
Next one is from Shiva. EOI at 75 points for chefs. When I might get invitation?
Should have received in the previous round, because the chef up to 70 points has already received the invitations. If you have lost your EOI, haven't received it, then there must be something in your EOI. Come book an appointment and we are more than happy to review your expression of interest.
Next one is Aditya. I have 85 points for 190 state sponsorship in WA. I have 1 year of experience. My occupation is ICT security specialist. What will be the time frame to get my invite if I lodge my EOI in February?
Why you want to wait until February? The first thing, you are meeting the requirements for the WA as well as 189. So just lodge your EOI, and 85 points security specialist should be invited very soon, because we have received ample number of invitations for ICT security specialist.
Okay. Another one is from Ramandeep. Ramandeep is asking, what are chances of 190 invitation for chef in WA 90 points?
Very high. Don't sit on into it, just lodge.
Another one is from Sardar. If someone is invited on the 190 and then after lodging visa, if they lose their job, then will it affect their visa?
The state government requirement is that you have a job offer letter. There's no such requirements that you have to keep working into that occupation even after the state nomination is approved. So it is an obligation. It is not a mandatory condition to keep continuing your work.
Sabina Thapa, she's asking, what is the best option for accounting students with 7 each in PTE?
Which state have you studied? If WA, then must lodge the expression of interest of all skills assessment, accountant, taxation, management, and 85 points at 85, 90 points for 189 and 70 points for 190, 491 WA.
Next question is Ash Desai. Hi, I want to know more about 491 with relative sponsorship visa in Victoria for electrical engineering.
Again, relative sponsored. Victoria is not a regional area. If the relative is living in a Victoria non-regional area, then you are not eligible for the relative sponsored. The relative must be living in a regional area to give you the points. So if they are giving you the points, then at 85 points, including relative points, you should receive the invitation, because it's a non-pro rata.
Next one, Purnika. What is the minimum marks for 190 Master of Nursing in WA?
Master of Nursing is basically the graduate stream. It comes under, not under the graduate, it comes under the general stream. So if you have a skills assessment as a specialization, which is couples like critical care or emergency and few more, I don't remember from top of my head, then you need a 12 months of a offer letter from the regional area. Perth is not considered regional. Perth and Mandurah are not considered regional for that purpose. So you do not meet the same criteria of the WA, which is under the graduate stream. You have to look into the criteria for the general stream for this one.
Imran is asking, as a student, can I get 491 on job offer letter?
Yes, the job offer letter states that this will come into an effect. This can have a condition on it that this only come into an effect upon grant of your full-time visa. So as a student holder, somebody can offer you a position, which is the conditional offer letter, and that is accepted by the state government.
Next one is from Salim. If we got job offer letter from South Australia for nursing on 491 visa, can we move back to Victoria after 491 nomination?
Under the 491 visa, there's no such requirements that you have to live in the same state where you have been offered the nomination from. So you can live and work in any regional area after the grant. So yes, basically you can. But your question was not very clear. I'm just talking about the conditions of a 491. That you have received the nomination from X state, but you want to move to the Y state, and the both are regional, you are fine.
Next one is from Pawandeep Singh Guman. Electronics engineer, 85 points. Date of EOI January 2019. What are the chances for 189 or 190?
How many points? I don't know. Electronics
85.
85. Okay, electronics engineer in the previous round were invited at 85 points, so you should get the invitation in this round for a 190. I'm talking about. You would need to have a job offer letter for that.
Khan Imran is asking, if I have 2 years of job experience in accounting, can I apply for sponsor visa under subclass 186?
186 visa needs 3 years of a full-time experience and the skills assessment. So if you have got a 3 years of a full-time experience, minimum 35 hours a week, then you are eligible for 186.
Next one is from Dhanuka. How long my relatives should have the PR to sponsor me for
18 months is the requirement. They must be living in the state for the 18 months, not as a permanent resident. So let's say that I got my permanent residency, I'm the relative, and I got my permanent residency just recently, but I have been living in the designated area. The requirement of living is 18 months, which is called a usually resident.
Jimmy Nayak, what are the chances for WA sponsorship 190 491 with 85 points as engineering technologist? I have 1 year experience in the field of biomedical engineering.
Okay, unfortunately, the engineering technologist has been removed from the WA list, so points does not matter because it is mandatory to have your occupation in the occupation list. This has been removed recently in the December round, so you need to wait for the occupation to come back into the list.
Pulati C is asking, what is the opportunity for IT 491 visa in Adelaide?
You need to meet the Adelaide requirements, working and living in Adelaide.
Sonam Penjor, I have 2 years of Australia experience and did my EOI in August last year. Still waiting, and my 485 is expiring soon. What are other options until I get invitation?
What occupation, Sonam?
She hasn't mentioned.
What occupation? Where did you study? I have no clue about it.
Babu Yadav, what is the probability of getting PR in Master in Agriculture Science from Tasmania? Can eligible for 190 visa after completion of course?
Agriculture engineer, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so are you doing agriculture science? Okay.
Master.
That's completely two different ones. For an agriculture science, your assessment body is VET-Assess. So once you finish your master's degree, you need to have 1 year of a full-time experience to get your skills assessment, and then you will be eligible from Tasmania state nomination for 190. So, but if you take your skills assessment outside Tasmania, then that will decrease your chances of receiving an invitation from Tasmania because you do not show your commitment towards the state. So, lodge your graduate visa after completion of the master's, stay in Tasmania, work for 1 year, get your skills assessment, then lodge, and then you should be. But it's 2 years from now or maybe longer. So, we really can't say that it will stay over there.
I think you already answered this question, but Tanuka, how long my relative should hold PR for sponsoring me 491 because because my relative in Ballarat got his PR granted 10 months ago.
Yeah, so that is the case. So they do not need to be granted a PR for a certain period of time. They can be PR very recently, but they should be living in a designated area, even as a holder of a student visa also, from last 18 months. So as you said, your relatives are living in Ballarat. That's a regional area. From last 10 months, they are holding a PR, and hopefully they have been living in Ballarat before that one. Another 8 more months, so they are eligible. You are eligible to get those points.
Next one, Saida. I have 80 points for regional and 70 points. I have a civil engineering Australian degree and I'm working as a structural designer in Queensland. Are there any chances of me getting PR on full-time employment, and is it mandatory to have 3 months experience or 6 months experience to file an EOI?
No, there are no such things for having those experiences and all. Which state did you study? Which state did you study?
She's saying I have a civil engineering degree and I'm working as a structural designer in Queensland.
It really matters which state did you study. If you have studied from WA, doesn't matter where you are currently, you would be eligible for a WA state nomination. If you have not studied from this one, I need to know which state, because then accordingly I can tell you which state are you eligible for. You are living in Queensland, so need to work, because the 3 and the 6 months of a Queensland experience is once you have, because you do not have to lodge an expression of interest for those ones. For a Queensland, you do an application once you have 3 and 6 months of an experience. It's different to the WA state nomination. So yes, if you have studied in Queensland, you wanted to lodge on the basis of an experience in Queensland, you have to wait for your 3 or 6 months of an experience to be completed so that you can lodge your online application for that one. Okay? Alright, so we take all these, we finish all the questions here, and if you still have got more queries, we are more than welcome to, you're more than welcome to put it out over the Facebook or book an appointment, come and see us, and our phone lines are 08922213020. Call us, book an appointment. I will be more than happy to see you guys. If there's any urgency for an appointment, you can tell over the receptionist, because I've just come back from my holidays and I'm looking into my backlog also, so there could be a bit of a wait to see the appointments, but we can adjust you in between if there is an emergency or some visas expiring or anything. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for all your questions. We really appreciate. That's how we love to communicate with you, and we love to work on your residency pathways and getting you the dream land of Australia. Thank you so much.